A mother stands over her child's body. Around her, death circles patiently, waiting. Blood stains the snow beneath her. She knows she cannot save her baby, but still, she refuses to leave. This painting made grown men weep in 1878. And 150 years later, it was voted the most popular artwork among 75,000 masterpieces, not because of its beauty, but because of the raw, unbearable truth it reveals about love and loss. This is Anguish. In the center of a frozen, desolate landscape, a mother ewe stands alone. Her lamb lies motionless beneath her. Dead, a thin trickle of blood runs from its mouth, staining the pure white snow. The mother's face is turned upward, her mouth open in what can only be described as a scream. Her breath freezes in the bitter winter air, but she is not alone. Surrounding her, in a suffocating patient circle, are dozens of black crows. They wait. They know what's coming. The mother is exhausted. She's been standing guard, but she cannot hold out forever. The moment she weakens, they will descend. Look at how the artist painted the crows. Each one has a different posture. Some are cautious, heads tilted, calculating. Others are bolder, stepping closer. A few in the background are already arriving, drawn by the promise of an easy meal. This is not just a circle of birds, it's a closing trap. The composition is suffocating. There's a gap in the foreground between the crows, and that gap pulls us into the scene. We're not just observers, we're witnesses, and there's nothing we can do to help. The man who painted this masterpiece was August Friedrich Albrecht Schenck. Born in 1828 in Glückstadt, Denmark, now part of Germany, Schenck moved to Paris as a young man to study at the prestigious École des Beaux-Arts, and he would spend the rest of his career in France. But unlike most academic painters of his time, Schenck didn't paint historical epics or grand mythological scenes. He painted animals, specifically sheep. Sheep struggling against winter storms, sheep protecting their young, sheep facing death. For over 30 years, he exhibited at the Paris Salons, and his work struck a chord with audiences. In Anguish, he gave the mother sheep human emotions we immediately recognize: determination, despair, unconditional love. A few years later, in 1885, Schenck painted the reverse of this scene. In that painting called L'Orphelin, a tiny lamb presses against the body of its dead mother under the same watchful eyes of circling crows. The same tragedy, the same helplessness. Both paintings ask the same devastating question: what do you do when you cannot save the one you love? When Anguish was first shown at the Paris Salon of 1878, something extraordinary happened. It wasn't just admired, it was felt. The composition deliberately echoes the Pieta, those famous religious images of Mary holding the body of Jesus, a mother, a dead child, unbearable grief. Schenck takes a Christian image and places it in the natural world. He removes religion, removes humanity, strips everything away, and what's left is the purest form of love and loss. Universal, timeless, devastating. Let's talk about how Schenck creates this overwhelming emotion through pure technical skill. First, color, or rather the lack of it. The painting is almost monochromatic. Grays, browns, muted whites. The sky is a dull, oppressive gray. The snow is dirty, not pure white. Even the mother sheep's wool is dingy, stained by the harsh winter. And then, just one touch of color. Red, the blood on the snow. That tiny spot of crimson transforms everything. It's the only warmth in the entire frozen landscape, and it represents life draining away. Second, composition. The circle of crows creates a claustrophobic trap. Your eye cannot escape. The gap in the foreground? That's deliberate. It pulls you in. You're not watching from a distance. You're standing in the circle. You're part of the scene. Third, the mother's posture. Schenck was a master of animal anatomy. He studied them obsessively, and here every muscle in the ewe's body is tense. Her neck strains upward. Her legs are planted. Her entire body language screams defiance. She knows she's going to lose, but she will not back down. And finally, the faces. Look at the mother's expression. Her mouth open, her eyes staring upward. Is she crying out to the heavens, calling for help that will never come? Or is she simply releasing her anguish into the void? We don't know. And that ambiguity makes it even more powerful. The crows, too, have individual personalities. Some curious, some hungry, some cruel. Every detail is carefully observed. This is not symbolic. This is real. Anguish was one of the earliest acquisitions by the National Gallery of Victoria in Melbourne, Australia. purchased in 1880 for £1,200, an enormous sum at the time. And it arrived in its original Salon frame, massive, ornate, gilded. In 1906, less than 30 years after it was painted, it was voted among the 5 most popular paintings in the entire Melbourne collection. And then, in 2011, during the gallery's 150th anniversary, among 75,000 artworks, including works by Picasso, Dali, Monet, Anguish was voted into the top 10 most popular, by a painter most people have never heard of. Why? Because this painting doesn't need you to know art history. It doesn't need you to understand symbolism or technique. It just needs you to have loved someone and to understand what it means to lose them. August Friedrich Schenck painted many works in his long career, but Anguish is the one that endures, not because it's beautiful, but because it's true. A mother, a child, an impossible choice. Share which detail struck you most in the comments. And subscribe to Painted Stories, because every masterpiece has a story worth discovering. I'll see you in the next one.